pandemic really drove up the use of interview style webinars. Now, I've said in other modules, do not waste courtesy attention by putting up an agenda for the audience, especially not if you're going to go through the agenda. The exception to that, and where you never see it used, is for interview style. Now, here's the challenge with interview style webinars. Okay. In all likelihood, neither the host nor the guest is well known to the audience. They don't know that you can keep their attention, that you can be interesting, or that what you're going to talk about is worth listening or watching. So what you do is you use an agenda at the top of an interview style webinar after the host has introduced, sort of welcomed the audience and introduced the speaker and so on, and maybe after 30 seconds or so of the interviewee introducing themselves. Once that's done, you have the host go through the agenda, but the agenda is not. Agenda points in an interview don't end with a period. They end with a question mark. In other words, these are provocative questions that you're going to quickly run through as a host and say, I want to ask you blah, 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 blah. And then I want to ask blah, 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 blah. Don't have like 17, right? You may have 17 questions in your actual interview. Don't have 17 in the agenda up front. Have like 4 or 5. That's all. Maximum, maybe 3, but probably 4 or 5. And they should be written in a way that are interesting, that are provocative, almost like headlines that end in a question mark. And the reason for that is, since I don't know, as the audience member, I don't know the speaker very well. I don't know the host very well. I'm not 100% sure yet what we're going to be doing. And you can't really open with a gap, or it can be a little tricky to open with a gap statement in an interview. So what you do is, in place of that, you telegraph or signal to the audience up front, we've got some very provocative, interesting questions coming up. And so stick around. Ideally, the first one is really interesting and interesting question, but there's something in there that they'll hook onto and say, okay, well, I would like to know what the answer to number 3 is, or I'm not even sure what they're asking for number 3. I'll hang around. And so they stick around. Interviews have the possibility of being among like maybe the very best format for webinars, but they're criminally misused. And so again, with the assumption that this person is worth listening to, you should sit tight and let this stranger talk about themselves. No. And so we signal with these provocative questions that we're actually talking about you, audience person. We're talking about your story. We're talking about your world. We're talking about things that are, coming at your planet, as an asteroid that you should know about and what you might be able to do about it in your business. So where you definitely don't want to use an agenda in a traditional style, one presenter with slides or whatever, or in sort of a hybrid one where there's a host that hands it over to the speaker and then the speaker basically treats it like a traditional webinar. In an interview style one, you should use an agenda, but make sure that it's not just bullet points. You're going to actually reframe all of the bullet points, 4 or 5 most likely, as very provocatively posed questions to sort of cement the audience's attention up front and keep them so that even if they're not particularly interested in question 1 or question 2 or 3 or 4, they might still hang around for 5. And so it doesn't really matter. You just need them to be hooked for 1, and then if you can, moderately hooked on one of the others, and you probably have them for the entire session.